Atomic batteries to power, turbines to speed. So, let me take you back in time. And I wasn't really planning on this at all. This is a classic example of me starting to collect a few bits to fill out my range of Corgi Batman toys. And lo and behold, I discover a whole lot more than I ever knew about Batman Corgi toys. So, this is a Corgi catalogue from 1979, as you can see. Now, in here, you can see that even though we're in 1979, Batman toys are still very much a thing. So you can see a Batboat, a Batmobile, a Batcopter, and a Batbike. And I actually now have examples of all of these on this page. But I want to start earlier. And the reason for that is that I discovered on my eBay travels a toy manufacturer making Batman toys that I had never heard of before. And it turned out there was a reason for that. And that is because the Batmobile started off life as early as 1966. So it's ancient. It's nearly 60 years old in terms of when it was first manufactured. But it wasn't originally manufactured under the name Corgi. It was actually being produced by Matoy Playcraft. And they owned Corgi. But originally, Corgi Junior sized toys were produced as Huskies. So this is a Husky Batmobile. And this confused the heck out of me when I found it on eBay. And I will hold it closer to the camera in a moment. But I want to demonstrate to you why it's so confusing. This is a full-size Batmobile. Now, my confusion came from the fact that when you look at these alongside each other, they both have the little sort of chevrons at the back there. They've both got little launcher. So if I hold this up close to the camera, you see, all of a sudden it starts looking a lot like the larger Batmobile. So when this came in the post, I thought, what on earth's this? And it turned out, of course, that this Husky is actually a Corgi Junior's scale Batmobile. It's not the same as the bigger one, but older one that I'm used to, that many, many people in the United Kingdom had. And interestingly, you can see there as well, so the door detail is virtually identical. So it's very, very hard to tell them apart when someone zoomed right in on them on eBay, unless you know. And I didn't at the time. But the other interesting thing here is that this Husky, which you can very clearly see there, has the little sort of impression of Batman on the underside of it. And this looks for all the world like the Batman you get on the underside of the full-size Batmobile. So this is what was really throwing me. It's even got this indent. So it actually looks as if the Husky version of the Batmobile was what they blew up to use to make the full-size Batmobile. So that was my first little sort of revelation that I didn't know about. What I also love about this model is the fact that they clearly came as standard with Batman and Robin in the cockpit, which is brilliant because it's the scale is tiny, but they still tried it. And the later versions, I think they did come with. Well, they came with Batman. I don't think they came with Robin. I could be wrong about that, and there's going to be a lot about this that I don't know. So please, do, by all means, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, because I undoubtedly will be. But I also love the fact that this has got the yellow sort of headlights at the front there, because that for me is synonymous with the TV series that this comes from. And this does come from the 60s Batman TV series with, I'm going to get this wrong now, Adam West. I think that's right, isn't it? Now, the other really interesting thing about this, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, so let me cheat a little bit here. If you see this, if you remember what I said at the start of the video, the catchphrase when they went out in the Batmobile in the TV series was atomic batteries to power, turbines to speed. And then a jet of flame came out the back of the engine as they left the Batcave at speed. And you can see that if I move the rear wheels of this Batmobile, the flames going in and out as the back wheels move. And that's brilliant. I only found this out really, really recently, ironically. Now, you may notice there is a little hole there, and that, of course, is for the Batboat. And there is indeed a Batboat from the Husky range. And this is it. You can see here that this is a Husky. And this is, it'll say the Batboat there, basically. But it's struggling to zoom in on the blackness. But again, this is one that I'd not noticed before, because it has this little bat symbol on its fin. And this is tiny again. This is much, much smaller. But again, we have a Batman and a Robin in the Batboat. But this is the Batboat that I used to see when I was little. Oops, if I can get it off its trailer. Which I can't. There you go. So this is the one that I had when I was little. So it has this sort of bright red bat sticker on the front, but it doesn't have anything on its fin at all. So I could quite happily take that in the bath, although it probably lost its front sticker eventually. But you can see that they're very, very similar sizes overall, and overall very, very similar designs, but they've just got that little sort of differences in detailing. So what happened was that ultimately Matoi changed the Husky name to Corgi Juniors. So then we got the lines of Corgi Juniors. Now, for reference, that was the Husky 1202 is the Batmobile, and 1003 for the Batboat. And that was as big as those Huskies got. So now we move on to the Batmobiles. And I'm imagining pretty much every kid going had a Batmobile at some point in time, because they were synonymous with late 70s kids, and they were produced from 66 to 83. So we had 17 years worth of these Batmobiles being produced, but they did change gradually over time, and I actually picked up a couple of these rather wrecked looking ones from an auction because I was trying to get a Batcopter, ironically. Now you'll immediately notice the difference between these two. They both have red bat symbols on their wheel caps, and that is an indicator that they are quite old. So these are towards the sort of 60s end, early 70s end. But you notice this one has a tow bar for the Batboat. This one does not, because when they were originally released, the Batboat wasn't a thing. So they made a mistake, and they didn't allow for the Batboat arriving. So instead we have this one, and again, like the small Husky version, you'll see that this flame goes in and out, and it does still go in and out on this one as well. But eventually, let me just zoom in on that better for you. Eventually that would change. But these have a degree of suspension to them. It's probably not very evident, but there's a degree of give in there, as you can see there, in their sort of wheelbase. But again, that would change over time as well. But that's the icon, rather well, from my point of view, iconic Batman on the bottom of the toy. Now you can see that this one just says Batmobile at the bottom there, which apparently is an indicator that it's one of the earlier ones, and it is the more battered of the two of them. But even so, it's still got its it doesn't really come out very well, but it does still have its battering ram, that one, I think. And if you can hear that, it's still trying to launch its missiles. It's actually quite intact as well, because it's got these little protrusions at the top here, and there would have been a sort of a light there as well. But it's not in bad shape at all. It's the first time I've owned one of those really sort of older ones. But this one is older still because it lacks the hook. But it's still in really nice shape, and then the paint and so on is pretty decent. And this one's it does have its there we go. So its battering ram does still come out. It's still there, which is great. And that you press that in theory to get it out if it's in the mood for it. But it's nice to have those because both of those are, I say, much older than the ones I've had before. Now the display one that I have been using up to this point was actually this one, and you can see immediately that the wheels on this one are very, very different. And in fact, I'll show you this about the wheels as well, because the tyres on these are how you can also distinguish them. Now you can see those are very plasticky, relatively wide. These ones are a little bit narrower, but these I believe should be rubber tyres. So they're just a little bit different. And they've got a sort of an outer, I think that is actually lettering on the outside of the tyres there. It may well be, but I think that's one of the differentiators between them. So these are supposed to be faster, but because they're designed differently, it doesn't have the suspension. So it's quick, but it doesn't have the suspension, and the turbines, the flame no longer moves. So you won't get any movement out of this as it's moving. That's just now solid piece of sort of orangey plastic. That's it. So they changed the design that little bit as it was going on. Also here, you can tell this is a later one because it gets this National Periodical Publications ink lettering at the back of it. Interestingly, they was made in Great Britain. They were actually made in Swansea, and that's why it says Great Britain rather than England, because they were Welsh produced. So this one's actually quite nice. It's not complete, but it's got its aerial at the back there. It's even got some. I noticed there's about 2 halves of a missile in the tubes there. When I was trying to launch it using this, it actually wanted to sort of try and poke them out a bit for me, bless it. So it's still kind of with it. It's quite worn. It's got a slightly broken windshield at the front there, but it's still very much the iconic Batmobile. And again, it's got the sort of the yellow headlights there at the front, and it's got its battering ram there, which still doesn't want to behave for me. But its battering ram is in there. So those are the classic ones. But what I was hunting for on eBay turned out to be much harder than I thought it was going to be to get. Now, I already had one of these, and this is the Corgi Junior's Bat helicopter. This is quite a nice shiny example of it. Nice sticker on the side there. No, it doesn't come with a figure inside it. It is what it is. But I loved playing with this when I was little. It's a nice little helicopter. I don't think those aren't terribly expensive. Obviously, if you manage to find it on a card, then congratulations. You'll pay much more for it. But those are in pretty decent condition. But what I was looking for was one of these, and this was surprisingly hard to find. And this is a decidedly play-worn version. But let me show it to you alongside the Batmobile. So it's about the same size as a Batmobile. Now, you'll notice there are 2 pairs of blades here. You often see them pictured in auctions with only one set of blades, and that is often because one of them has snapped off. You can see here this one's still spinning very, very happily, which is nice. They do actually fold together. I'm actually not going to do it because I feel I've got resistance there, but they do fold together a little bit anyway. But you should be able to see 2 pairs of blades if it's intact. Now, the one thing this is missing, although it does have the Batman figure inside it, you can see through there, it should have a winch. So this wheel here should control a winch, which would have come out from a tiny hole that you can probably just about see there. I have nearly got some examples of that, but on balance, I felt that for display purposes, the 4 rotor blades were more important. You can get repro ones, but I think these are the originals as far as I'm aware. And the stickers were still okay. I mean, obviously the blacks have been very, very battered over time, but the stickers are still okay. So I thought that was kind of a fair trade-off. There should be a little sticker on the tail there as well, as you can see. It actually got a little sticker down there, which I've not noticed before, but also the tail rotor there was still on this one, but surprisingly hard to find. And had I wanted a much better condition one, I would have been paying quite a lot for one. So I felt that on balance, this was a reasonable compromise. I also saw quite a few that were missing the tips of their skis here as well, which is another reason why I went for this one over some of the others that were available. But I mean, if I could figure out how to paint it black in a sensible fashion, I could probably bring that back up to spec fairly straightforwardly. Now I showed you the Husky Corgi Junior size boat before. I want to show you the bigger boats now. because that was a thing as well. And this one, again, I only found out about relatively recently. Now, this is a Corgi, because the Corgis were the full-size models. But this one I hadn't seen before. And you'll see when I compare it to the other one, that although they're the same basic mould, the stickers and the detailing, for example, on the back here, I had no idea that was actually a sticker, because the first example of this I saw, I thought it was just dirt, but it's not. By the way, I should mention that the Batmobile is Corgi 267, the Batboat is 2519, and the sorry, I'm getting that muddled up. So that's 267. Batboat is 107. Apologies. Batcopter is 925. So those are reference numbers if you're looking for the larger ones. So this one is very, very similar to the Batboat that appeared, I think it was the 60s, I want to say it's the 66 Batman movie, which was actually a TV series, TV movie. So that was Adam West and Burt Ward in that one. And this is why it's got this sort of white with red fire sort of decals on it, because it's not actually exactly the same colours as were on the boat in the film, but it's not far off. So again, that was called, and one's got some Glastron on the bottom. So this is Corgi Toys, made in Great Britain, and this is a Glastron Batboat, because the actual boat that they used, the manufacturer, was Glastron, so that's why it's called that. But the one that I'm more familiar with is the one that goes on the back of, well, not that Batmobile, but this Batmobile, or indeed the other one that I showed you earlier. And again, getting this with the trailer was, again, it was one of those random pickups. I just saw it in the shop in North Wales, and I thought, yep, that looks nice, I'm going to grab that because it would be rude not to. And so, nice trailer setup. These came as a gift set. As you can see, the difference here is that this one is a lot sort of plainer than, in some respects, than the other one I just shown you, because it's but this is the one that I remember from my childhood. So as soon as I saw this, it was a straight shot back to my childhood. But I was lucky to get a trailer with it, and as you can see, you know, it's quite happily fitting on the back of the Batmobile there like that. So really nice thing to have picked up, and again, not something I was looking for. But once I'd got a Batmobile and got a Batboat, it would have been rude not to get the Batcopter, and so it went on. So the only other thing I want to show you now, and again, this is not something I'd aimed to pick up, but picked up from a toy fair, is the Batcycle. And I have been lucky enough, since I got the actual Batcycle, to pick up a Batman for it. And I was told at the fair that getting the actual Batmen to go on the back of this Batcycle is extremely difficult. And this is actually not my original Batcycle. This is one I picked up off eBay, but I got it primarily to get the Batman. And as you can see, it's very cool. Handlebars move there. It's got missiles that will fire out the front here, which I now have. Well, I don't have two of the Batman ones, but I do have another bike that I've picked up, which I'm hoping will give me a couple of missiles that I might be able to use on that as well. But it's a really, really nice item to have with the Batman on it as well. So very pleased to have managed to pick up those two. Now, it would have been lax of me to omit this little combo. So this is the Batboat I showed you earlier, so the Corgi Junior Batboat, which was 2519 by Corgi numbering, and the Batmobile here is 69, I believe. And as you can see, this is very, very similar to the original Husky. But you'll notice that, you might be able to see here, the Husky paint job it's a matte black finish. It's not a gloss finish. So you can see that they've got two very, very decidedly different looks to them. You can see there's one Batman figure in there, and I don't know if the Corgi Junior version actually came with a Robin at any point, but the Batman figure seems to be a fairly sort of common occurrence, I think. But you can see, they coloured it quite differently. So we've got a red colouring on the missile launcher there, and big sticker on the back as well. But the Husky that I've got doesn't seem to go for that at all. So essentially the same overall model, I think, but just decorated somewhat differently, basically. The front end, yeah, so I think they're about the same on the front end as well. But they're nice, they're very, very fast little cars, and I'm actually thinking about it. I wonder if the wheels here, yes, the wheels are different here as well. So these are the Husky wheels on the left, and the Corgi Junior wheels on the right. And the Corgi Junior wheels, oh, that's right, yes, of course, this is what I wanted to show you, actually. So the underside of these are very, very different. So here you can see that the axle is going across and is sort of unfettered on the Corgi Junior version there. But on the Husky version, it's completely enclosed. And that, I think, is to allow it to have its a little bit of suspension to it. So you can see that, like the larger Batmobiles, this one's wheels actually have a degree of suspension, which I think is one of the things that it's known for, as being slightly different to the Corgi Junior's version that follows. And that, say, the tyres moved from being rubber to being plastic, being the Whiz Wheels variant, I believe, at some point. So interesting to see how it actually developed over its own lifetime. I don't have a trailer for the Husky Batboat, so I don't know if it's any different, but ironically, I picked one of these Batboats up in an auction. This I believe is the right trailer, because I did pick up one trailer that definitely isn't the right trailer. And if you're curious, they are still making the Batmobile itself is always getting reproduced. But I picked up this one in particular because this is actually a Hot Wheels Batmobile, which is, as you can see, of a very sort of similar ilk to the Corgi Junior one here. Slightly longer, but it's the same core principle. But interestingly, no figure in it. But I guess this is inevitably in the best condition of the ones I've got. But this is a more direct copy of the TV series Batmobile. As you can see, I think the wheels are probably closer to the original TV series Batmobile, and it's got the red lining on it as well, which is a classic, exemplar sort of the TV series. So that's quite a nice one to have in my collection as an example of what they've done with it in the sort of the modern day. But these are the ones that started it all. So it's nice to have had I known about the Husky earlier, I probably would have been looking for it earlier. But I literally got it purely out of curiosity because I'd never come across one before, but I had no idea that it wasn't full size and it was that small. Otherwise, I might not have bid quite so high for it because I thought I was bidding for a full-size Batmobile, but I really wasn't. But so that's my sort of Bat family at the moment, really. So I mean, that's a bit of an outlier for in terms of the Corgis. But so we've got Corgis there, and I've got Huskies here. So that's those two, and then we've got the earlier edition of the Batboat there, and the if I could find out where have I put my big bat? There she is. Completely actually, it's so attached to the trailer it doesn't want to come off, so I'll just put it side by side there. But you can see the sort of the very radical difference in terms of the decoration on those. And I've got the Bat cycle here, complete with kickstand, which is nice. He doesn't fall over unless you try particularly hard, which is good. Pretty hard to get lighting on these; they're so dark. This is probably the nicest of the Batmobiles there, and then of course finally the Batcopters. Just about squeezed them all in there, more or less, I think. Yeah. So that is the sort of collection. So I mean, I suppose the odd one out really of all these is the Batbike, because you didn't get a small Batbike. I guess there wouldn't have been much point really. I mean, it probably would have been tiny. But it's nice to have managed to get them all together again. And for display purposes, I'm not overly fussed about the general quality of them, but I think they all will display pretty nicely. If I can get the big Batcopter a little bit darker, then so much the better. But it is what it is. It's been well played with and well loved, clearly. It's got no winch, but I might find another one. It might be one of those ones where it's on my sort of list of things to upgrade. But I may well be selling some of these off in auctions again because I've ended up with more than I needed. But it was the only way I could get the larger Batcopter, really. And, just allowed me to explore and get some of the proper trailers for things as well. Because I think getting the trailers can be quite difficult as well. But I have got one trailer for the big Batboat and one trailer for the little Batboat now. So that's all good. So do let me know if you know more than I do about these, because I'm sure it won't be difficult. I believe there have been a good half dozen variants of this particular issue of the Batmobile, all of which are Corgi, because it developed over time, both with the different wheels and the tow hook for the boat, and just generally the wheels and so on changed over time as well. I think the coloration of the windshield was the last change before they stopped producing it in '83. So, I hope that's been of use to you. And as I say, if, like me, you find it very hard to judge size on eBay auction pictures when they're taken up close, I would ask them for the reference number or just ask them for the actual physical size of the thing, because, it's by far and away the best way to figure out what it is that you're actually looking at before you commit to it, because otherwise you're probably going to get disappointed when it arrives. So, that's it for this one. I hope you've enjoyed that sort of romp around memory lane of old school Bat vehicles from the TV series. And that's all I've got for you for this one. So do like and subscribe, and cheers for now.